Our veteran today is sponsored by Representative Steve Martin. Representative Martin, you're recognized to introduce us to our Veteran of the Week.
Thank you, members. It is my privilege today, and also the privilege of Representative Sears and Senator John Ford, to recognize as Veteran of the Week an outstanding Bartlesville citizen. And as Veteran of the Week, of course, we focus on the military aspect, the veteran aspect of the veteran. I'm going to leave that to the citation, which will probably be a little bit anemic, as most citations are, because you can't really express a military career in a short piece of paper. But I want to talk a little bit more about the history of Denzil D. We call him Denny Garrison, as for the time that he spent and some of the special things that he did right here at 23rd and Lincoln. When my grandfather, Carl W. Statz, decided to retire from this chamber, he approached a young county attorney named Denny Garrison and asked him to run for that seat. Denny ran and was elected in 1956 and 58, and then in 1960 he ran for the Senate and served in the Senate for 12 years. He was the minority, and when I say minority, I mean minority leader in both the House and the Senate as he was serving. There was one very special thing that I want to tell about that he did, because there's some things that we hold up as being special, and one of them is bipartisanship, and another one is constituent service. So I want to tell you a story about bipartisanship and constituent service. When Senator Garrison was serving in the Senate in 1970, there was another senator that was serving there. You may be familiar with him. His name was Gene Stipe. And he served around here for about 40 years and developed, I'm told, some degree of influence in Oklahoma policy. Well, Denny being the minority leader and Gene Stipe being Gene Stipe, they did not agree on very many issues. However, they were very, very close personal friends. And there was a constituent issue where Senator Stipe received a communication from one of his constituents that said that his son was on trial, no, his nephew was on trial for murder in Vietnam in association with the death of some civilians, and I'm going to use air quotes with the civilians, and it looked very, very bad. And Senator Garrison and Gene Stipe together, the minority leader and Gene Stipe, at their own expense, went to Vietnam and put on a defense for this Marine hero who was a recipient of the Silver Star for twice in one day saving the life of an unknown Marine lieutenant named Oliver North. And so they went to Vietnam, and they secured an acquittal for this young Marine, who was later presented with the Silver Star that he had already received, had already been awarded. Denny ran for governor in 1974. He ran in the Republican primary, he ran against Jim Inhofe and was defeated. David Boren then ran against Jim Inhofe and was elected. And then Denny went to work as the legislative liaison for David Boren. They still remain good friends, and I can tell you, when Jim Inhofe comes to Bartlesville, the first thing he wants to do is get in contact with Denny Garrison, and the reason I know that is he was in Bartlesville helping me on one of my campaigns, and he told me that. So at this time, if you would please read the citation.
Clerk will read.
Whereas Denzil D. Garrison, a longtime resident of Bartlesville, Oklahoma, joined the U.S. Army in 1945 and was commissioned as a second lieutenant of field artillery. And whereas Denzil D. Garrison served in the European Theater in Fulda, Germany with the 9th Division Artillery and with A Troop 71st Constabulary Squadron prior to returning home in 1947. And whereas Denzil D. Garrison joined the Oklahoma National Guard 45th Infantry Field Artillery Division in 1948 and was sent to Korea to serve as a battery commander of B Battery of the 171st Field Artillery Battalion. And whereas Denzil D. Garrison saw fierce combat in extremely harsh conditions, returning with 2 battle stars and retiring with the rank of major. And whereas among the most honored of all of those in public service are veterans who have protected all Americans from enemies, both foreign and domestic. And whereas the state of Oklahoma holds our veterans in highest esteem and appreciates the sacrifices and contributions they have made to preserve our freedoms and way of life. And whereas the Oklahoma House of Representatives of the 54th Legislature takes great pride in honoring you as Veteran of the Week. And now, therefore, pursuant to the motion of Representatives Steve Martin and Earl Sears, the state of Oklahoma extends to Denzil D. Garrison sincere commendations and directs that this citation be presented.
Mr. Speaker, at this time I would like to introduce Senator Garrison's trophy wife, Barbara Garrison. Been together how many years? 60. Married 60 years. And we have, for you, we have a copy of your citation, and we have an American flag. Is that here? Here it comes. And that has flown over the Capitol, and we'd like to present you with that. And before we ask you to lead us in the flag salute, Mr. Speaker, if we could, I'd like for you to recognize Senator Garrison for some remarks.
Members, please be seated. Lieutenant Garrison, you're recognized.
Thank you, Representative Martin. You're wearing a badge there, says Page, State Senate. He was my page, and I think he was a better House member than he was a page in the Senate.
1965.
That was in 1965. I am moved more than I can tell you for this opportunity to talk before the State House of Representatives. I served over here 4 years, and I was minority leader the last 2 years that I served. And I want to tell, especially you fellows over here on the south side, the situation that I found myself in when I served in that session. We had 25 House members in those days, and then the House had 125 seats. I don't know if a lot of you knew that, but when they reapportioned, they cut it down. But there were 125 House members, and 25 of them were Republicans. And we had the first session, and we got through it all right, but then came the election of Howard Edmondson, and he had the Prairie Fire, they called it, and he just swept the state of Oklahoma, and he beat the Republican 3-1 that he ran against. It kind of cut us down a little bit in our membership over in the North Aisle. We went from 25 members to 9 members. That last row over there was solid Republican. The only thing that saved us was that the Democrats had a split between the old guard and the new guard. Howard Edmondson was new guard. And I regarded myself as New Guard too. I'd gone to law school with Howard. So we caucused, and they looked around and said, we got to have somebody. He said, we're all old. Said, everybody but Garrison. Said, we got to make him the minority leader. So I was made minority leader of those 9 people. And I told him, I said, well, one thing I know is if we just stay together and vote together, we'll make the difference. And that's exactly what happened. The Democrats split 50-50. And I went to Howard Edmondson and I said, your program's kind of tied up, isn't it, Governor? And he said, yes, it is. But he said, we're going to keep at it. And I said, well, let me tell you what. I have 9 votes, and they're tied up for your program. And I just wanted you to know that. And he said, are you serious? And I said, yeah. And he said, I have a daily meeting of all my legislative leaders at 10 o'clock every morning. And I'm going to invite you as a member of that to come and visit with me each morning at 10 o'clock. And we did. And right down the line, we passed his program with those 9 votes over there. So I want to talk to you fellas over here on the south aisles. If you think you got it tough, just think what I went through over there. Oh, I love my days in the House. I have fond memories of them. And I love my time in the Senate. They mentioned Senator Stipe. I went to Vietnam with him on a trial. The thing about Gene was that he and I were very, very close personal buddies, but we didn't agree on anything political. And in fact, when I'd go home, I'd say, if I go to the Senate, I'll vote against everything that Senator Stipe's for, and vice versa. And that's the way that I made it into the Senate. But we were over there in that trial, and we had a Marine Corps judge, Lieutenant Colonel. He's an ornery son of a gun. And so Stipe gets up on the first day of trial, and he said, I want to tell you, Judge, that there are certain things we can all agree on, and we won't have to put any evidence on, and here are the things that we'll agree. And he started reading these supposed facts, and they were all wrong. And I thought, wow, we're going to get thrown in the hoosegow over here in Vietnam. And they had plenty of hoosegows over there, I'll tell you. But anyway, I wrote him a note. I said, Gene, your facts are all wrong. Ask for a short recess. And he read it and he shoved it back at me. And he got up and he kept reading, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I said, Gene, ask for immediate recess. So he gets up and says, Your Honor, could we have a 5-minute recess so that my co-counsel and I can discuss this? And the judge says, yes. And he leans over to me and says, damn it, don't interrupt me when I'm trying to confuse this court.
Let's do the pledge. Lead us in the pledge.
Lieutenant Garrison, you're recognized to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would the members and guests please stand?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the world's greatest flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic